I keep getting lots of contact about my thoughts on the Katt Williams interview on Club Shay. The interview heard round the world. And I don't know, my take is probably going to be really, really boring. Number one, I want people to keep in mind, my dad has been dead for 15 years, so I have not been fully immersed in the world of comedy. I don't know the ins and outs of that like that anymore, because my end has been gone for 15 years. You know, I've got friends in the game, but we don't sit and talk about, you know, stuff like that. So, you know, I don't know Katt Williams. Never met him. That's one person I never did get to meet when my dad was alive. But from everything that I've ever heard my dad, you know, say, he's always seemed like a stand-up dude. So I have no qualms, no quarrels with him. I thought the interview was hilarious, entertaining. That man dropped so many one-liners that I'm sure we are going to be wearing down to the ground in this year of our Lord 2024. But
you have an unnatural allegiance to losers has got to be my favorite one-liner from that whole thing. But let's keep going.
But one of my biggest takeaways in watching people's responses was how people were kind of like, oh, this kind of sad, like, outside of being, you know, tickled by it. And I've seen people say stuff like, it's like watching, you know, your uncles go at it, and you're like, oh, why can't we all just get along? Well, I mean, because everybody doesn't get along. Like, I think that's one of the misconceptions about comedians, and I guess it's due to the fact that what they do brings so much joy to others, that the perception, the expectation is that behind closed doors, everybody gets along, everybody it's love. And no, it's not. They've always been competitive. Like, it's always been, as far as I've ever witnessed in watching my dad, it's always been kind of cutthroat. Like, you'll have, you know, people beefing, like, same as within your family. Just because y'all related don't mean y'all all get along, right? Comedy's no different. But for me, Katt Williams has my utmost appreciation and respect for giving my dad his props and his flowers. And I felt like it was genuine. There are some people who have given, you know, my dad his flowers now that he's dead, that I'm looking at like, you know, doggone well, he wasn't doing that when he was alive. And that, not just famous people, just people all across the board. As my dad used to say, you ever want to be loved by everybody? You ever want to be special? Just die. It's real easy to give lip service when somebody dies and you, oh, they were so wonderful. And that's not how you felt when they were alive. But when Katt spoke of my dad, for me, I felt his heart. I felt that it was genuine, and I appreciate it. Again, it's been 15 years since my dad's been dead. If you follow me at all, you know I've said this repeatedly. Like, it does my heart good to know that my dad was a stand-up guy, that the man that I knew him to be was who he actually was to people, because that's the thing. Like, you can love people and think they one way and then find out later. No. And I say, like, in 15 years, if he was an asshole, somebody by now would have been like, let me tell you about that mother. So that is not the case with my dad. Makes me so proud, and I just really appreciate what I believe the genuine love and respect that Katt Williams showed my father. It is so much appreciated. Much love and mad props to Katt Williams. I would love to sit down and just have a conversation with Katt Williams, because I think that is probably the most entertaining and gem-dropping conversation I probably would have in my life outside of conversations with my dad. So yeah, so that's my take. Like I said, probably boring, but that's what I thought. Again, much love and respect to Katt Williams.
That was not boring, Mama. I'm happy that you took the opportunity to give your thoughts in regards to what Katt Williams said about your father. I maintained on this platform the importance of men in our society, and more specifically, the importance of strong fathers in our society, especially within a culture that has a 70% illegitimacy rate. It is awesome to see your reflection through Katt Williams's reflection in the way that you just conveyed it. Your dad was absolutely a true king of comedy, one of the best to ever do it. And to have his offstage character reflected as an example for yourself to lead in your life, you couldn't ask for a better father. But damn, 15 years is so crazy. I feel like I'm living in an alternate universe, one of which we just skip years by days, because I can't believe that. But I also found another video of Bernie Mac's daughter speaking about the day that he passed. Let's watch.
Yes, he's gone, but talking about him in the past tense, I was like, absolutely not. Why are you doing that? Why?
Yeah, no, yeah. I hear you, because I know a lot of people ask me like how I feel just because I was on the show, but it's like, how did you feel? Because I
said I wasn't gonna cry, man.
See, because when you brought it up, I'm sorry, but
I had to, because that's why I said I hate bringing it up. But I remember the night it happened, and the whole day, so it was the third week he was in the hospital, and up until that point, I had been like, he's gonna be okay. He's been hospitalized before. He's gonna come home. He's gonna be fine. And that Friday, the doctors said, listen, we need to do, routine procedures. We need to change his PICC line. We'll do that and it'll be fine. And the weird thing about that day is that Friday in the ICU lobby, usually it was packed. Like there were tons of people. When I got there that morning, it was just my mother and my grandmother. It was empty. It was such an eerie feeling because I remember walking in and looking like, where is everyone? Like, what's happening? It's empty. Like, huh? And they were just like, oh, everything's fine. And they kept saying they were going to take him, to change his PICC line. But the time kept changing. They kept saying, we'll take him down at 10:30. Then it turned into like noon. And it turned into 2. And it just kept getting later and later.
Yeah.
And in June, my mom's birthday is in June. In June for her birthday, I bought her tickets to see Jill Scott. The concert was that night, August 8th. And I remember saying to my mom, because by that point I had taken her phone from her because people just kept calling every day.
Yeah.
And I was watching her have to, relay the same thing. Okay, the doctor said that. Then, someone else would call. So I was like, no, give me the phone. I changed her voicemail message and I kept her phone. And I told her, I said, we've been coming to this hospital every day for 3 weeks. We're going to go to the concert and just kind of get our mind off of things. Yeah. But you could tell both of us were just sitting there like, okay. So this
is a particularly hard conversation for me as my pops, who was my best friend in my life, passed away about 6 months ago. So bear with me. What I will also say is that this has got to be so hard to deal with as a public figure because him being in the hospital was something that was publicly known. All right. There wasn't a lot of information at the time about it. I mean, the internet today is not what it was back then, but people knew that Bernie Mac was sick, right? Within my life, my father didn't want to even let his friends know that he was in a hospital. So he did that so that those that were there with him didn't have to worry about the constant communication and the constant bad information that was coming out regarding his prognosis and his status. So in a way, he was doing it to protect himself, but also to protect his family that was helping to take care of him at the same time. So I couldn't imagine having to relive that as my father was going through that for everyone that was calling. Anyway, let's get back into her comments.
By the time it came to go to the concert, they hadn't taken him yet. And they just said, we'll take him down. Don't worry. We'll call you if anything changes. We're still thinking, okay, everything's all right. Get to the concert. And like I said, we're just like Walking Dead, just sitting there like, we're here, but like Jill Scott is performing and we're both, it's a crowd of people just, and the two of us are just like, okay. My phone rings and I make my way outside to try to hear. And I heard the doctor say, okay, he's stable now, but he did cold.
Oh.
And I just was like, I'm sorry. You say what? And she told me he's been gone, like he was gone for like 2, I think she said the first time. And I was like, there was another time first. Right. She said it's like 3 minutes. They brought him back. They were able to get him stable. They brought him upstairs to his room. And then when they tried to transfer him from like the transport bed. I'm sorry.
I'm not trying to cry.
No, it's podcast. Okay. It's okay. And I just I never knew. It was a lot. It was. Even the day before, because And I took it as a sign of like, see, he's so strong.
Yeah.
Because he hated he never got off the ventilator. Mm-hmm. And they wound up having to sedate him because he kept fighting. So they had to restrain him and then give him the feeding tube. Yeah. And so the night before, he woke up and he's lucid, and classic Rhonda. If anybody knows my mama, this will be hilarious to y'all. My mom goes, "Hey, Bernard, do you know who I am?" And he looks at her and rolls his eyes like, here she goes. Here she go again. So I'm taking that. I'm like, yes, this is proof. He's getting better. He's going to be fine. And then I see him like watching my mom, and my mom was like, I'll be right back. I think she went to go get him like some more water or something. And he waited till she was gone, and he motioned for me to come over. And then he looks at me and he mouths, "I'm dead." Like he went. I can't read mouth. So I'm ruining the moment. I'm like, you say what? Huh? What? He was like, so he says it again. And I caught that. Mm-hmm. I didn't take it seriously because every time he got hospitalized, he was a horrible patient. Like, next thing you know, tabloids going to be saying TMZ going to be reporting Bernie Mac dead. Might as well go ahead and say it. Like, he always did that. Yeah. So I'm taking all of this as proof that he's fine. And so he says it again. And I'm like, I knew it wouldn't be long before you started talking like that. Man, go ahead with that. And he shook his head and he looked at me and went, and then he went like he was dying. And again, I didn't take it seriously because I'm like, I'm in denial. My dad can't die. Yeah. And so to get from that was Thursday to Friday night where that happens. And I remember like once we got to the hospital and, you know, when they let us see him. Yeah. As much as I hate that I have that memory in my head, I knew the second that I saw him that he wasn't, you could just see it. He wasn't there. Yeah. And I remember they said they were going to clean him up and they were like, we'll give you a room to go into, you know, while we clean him up and we'll come get you when we're done. And this whole time, my mom and I didn't talk at all. We're both probably in our own heads, afraid of the same thing, just not saying anything. And I just remember thinking to myself, if I fall asleep right now, he's not going to be here when I wake up. And I tried to fight sleep as much as I could. And next thing I know, I was sleeping. The doctor came in the room and I heard my mom go, he's gone, isn't he? And I heard a sound. I didn't know it was me. I was like, who's making that? Like, I hear this. It was me. I lost it. And yeah, it was the worst. Sorry to bring y'all down. I wasn't trying to bring anybody down. It came up in conversation. So we will.
No, it's fine. Well, thank you for sharing that. No, I definitely do appreciate it. Sorry.
Oh, no.
I definitely got emotional about it. But
it's okay.
I wanted to let that play as much as what I could just so you can hear her thoughts. Again, particularly hard for me because of what I just went through. And it was like so many things within her story that was true within my story as well. R.I.P. to Bernie Mac, one of the best and the greats to ever do it. But yeah, this was a tough one for me. When she was talking about being at the concert and that he coded and that it wasn't the first time was literally one of the exact experiences that I had in it, that when my father was sick before I got home to New York, he coded a couple of days before. I was on my way home, but I got sick, so I couldn't go home at that time because I didn't want to get him sick. At the time, he was very low on his immune system because he had been going through chemotherapy. And so he coded while I was sick. And I remember being so angry at myself that I was sick because I couldn't go home to be with him there. But I was so happy that the doctors ended up bringing him back. And this was about about 2 months or so before he passed. So I had the 2 months to just talk with him. And he could still talk at the time. He was still very, very cognizant. I would say it was up until about a week and a half before he passed, where his cognition had significantly dropped. Before that, you have all hopes that they're going to get better, that they're going to turn the corner. And that night before he officially passed, I remember looking at him and thinking to myself, he doesn't have much time. Let me sleep here throughout the night in the hospital, just to make sure I can maximize time with him. He was still relatively cognizant and lucid during that time. And then that next morning, I looked at his numbers, and his numbers were really low. And, you know, he looked at me and he said that I feel a little bit different today. And then soon thereafter, he passed. The act of going through death, through the most important people in your life, is one of the hardest things that you will go through within your life. I don't care if it's someone you're married to, in a relationship with, a parent, a child, but the inevitable part of life is death. It's inevitable. It will happen. I think I've been particularly guarded within my life because I haven't experienced death to that degree and so close to me as I have within the past several years. And through every experience, I find myself lost at first. But I often say on this channel, it's not about the losses or the L's that you take, but how do you bounce back from those L's? My father, before he passed, said to me, keep on working. Keep on making yourself happy through your purpose. Don't ever stop. Don't ever fumble. Take breaks, but know why you're doing it and why you're in it for. Fathers like my father and fathers like Bernie Mac's father are the reason why I speak with so much passion regarding the importance of fatherhood within the world today. It is so important that we build a better life for them than we had for ourselves and pay it forward. All right. Woo, this was a tough one, to say the least. Shout out to everybody that are still here with me and is listening to this portion of the content. And shout out again to Bernie Mac's daughter. He created a beautiful young lady. You can just see that in the way that she's articulating herself. Knowing that it was 15 years ago for her and seeing how raw her emotions still get when bringing it up reminds me that no matter how far in the future that I get from my own pops' passing, it will still always be raw for me. But it wouldn't be as raw for me if he wasn't such an amazing person within my life. So I thank God that he gave me that time with him for the time that he was here. Until next time, YouTube, peace.